One of the biggest frustrations about using AI, especially when you're trying to use it for your content creation, is getting it to not only sound like you, but to feel like you. And it doesn't just mean in generating things whole cloth. A lot of times you're trying to flush out your ideas, maybe come up with some newsletter points or something of that nature, and you just really need it to sound more like you. Well, you watch a bunch of videos and people would tell you you have to give it better context. And I don't know if it's explained as much as maybe it could be. So I'm going to show you today how to make your favorite bot. It doesn't matter whether it's ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, whatever you use to make it sound a lot like you. Now, the secret to this sauce is going to be having your AI tool of choice interview you and ask you questions that you can use to help you get closer to your point. Now, I use this methodology all the time. And I mean, from coming up with a video idea, and I say, I'm going to brainstorm this idea, but I want you to poke holes in the idea, try to find me some holes where I may not have, stated enough or gone in deep enough, or maybe I'm going too deep or getting too repetitive. And I often use this as a brainstorming tool, as opposed to say, hey, brainstorming some ideas, now write me a script. I'd rather tell it what my idea is and then have it help me fix my idea. We're going to do that today. I'm going to show you how to get the context correct first, because it will even have a harder time fixing your idea if it doesn't understand who you are. So when we mean by context, think of it like sitting down with a friend long enough that your friend kind of knows what you're going to say before you're going to say it, or your friend kind of just understands, when is a good day to talk about one thing, and maybe some other days we're not even going to broach that subject. Yeah, it's kind of like that. That's what context means. That's why you might hear things like, we are a high context society. So let's go in and I'm going to show you how to do this. It's super, super simple. The first thing we're going to do is I'm going to show you some of the example questions. Okay, so I did this in a live stream today, and I was helping out my buddy Taisha figure out how to help her LLMs or her bots do better at understanding what she's trying to do. And so these are the questions that we came up with. Okay, so you're going to have your bot basically interview you few times a week. It's almost better if you could do it after every piece of content that you create. But the more you do this, the better you will get responses from your bot. So here we go. We're going to say, we want to ask a question about your audience insight. And this is making sure that you're creating content that absolutely aligns with your audience. How are you feeling about your audience today? Anything new you noticed about what they love or need? Now, this is good because I think a lot of people publish. They don't understand necessarily what the audience is wanting, and they're missing a point, and they're kind of, publishing what they feel like instead of giving the people what they want. If you want to be good at this game, you got to give the people what they want. Okay, the next one is in your element moment. Tell me one moment this week where you felt totally in your element. What were you talking about or sharing? Now, this particular question is going to be really good for people who haven't quite honed their niche and they're trying to figure out what their niche is, or just get better at speaking about a particular thing where they can become the authority on that subject. The next one was highlight your strengths. Is there any topic you feel your personality really shines through on? Let's make sure we keep that front and center. You're just going to answer it. So it's going to ask you these questions and you're going to answer it. Now, the way I do this is with a voice chat, but you could also do this by typing. I just can't type. So I do this with a voice chat, but these are all work. And it says, avoiding cliches. What's the one thing you definitely want to avoid in your content? A cliche or a tone that doesn't feel like you. And so for me, I just don't really like industry buzzwords. I think people misuse them, mislabel them. They don't quite understand the meanings. They just repeat them because they heard somebody else say it. And yes, it's going to ask you this question often. You can always tell it to skip this question if you don't have any updates, or say, I don't have any updates. But I'm leaving it in there so that when some new thing comes up, because, the industry is constantly moving and changing, no matter what industry you're in, you're able to add whatever the latest updates are there. So that's a good place for that. And then we're going to talk about incorporating stories, any fun stories or examples you want to work in this week to keep things authentic and relatable. So there are your questions. Now, you can change these questions. You can adapt them. These are ones that we came up with doing a voice chat, but I think it's a good starting point. And as you go along, if you find you need to add some more, add some more. But again, the more conversations you have with your bot, the better it will do at figuring you out. Now, let me show you how to make it work even better. So we're going to pop back over to this guy, and then we're going to go to ChatGPT. Now, I use a program called Whisper Flow to talk to my bot. Here, let me grab this copy first. Let me go ahead and snatch these. And yeah, let me grab it from here to here. We're going to snatch all of these and we're going to go back. Okay, so we're going to say, you can talk to it however you want. This is how I talk to it. I am going to give you a list of check-in questions that whenever I popped on, probably in the voice context, and I say, let's do a check-in, I want you to go through these series of questions to make sure that we are constantly staying aligned with my purpose, my mission, my message, and what I'm trying to deliver to the audience. Now, the example questions I'm going to give you below are a starting point, but feel free to add any other questions that will help you make sure that we are always getting the best possible output. Okay, so that's what I'm going to put. Now, I have a secret that I got from a video by a guy named Jeff Su, and I'll link the video in the description, but he had something that he calls a perfection loop, and I've been using it a lot lately, and it's glorious. I did a full demo on this on the live stream, which I can also link, but let me go ahead and give you the shortcut for this perfection loop, and it basically states, before you respond, create an internal rubric what defines a world-class answer to my request. Internally iterate your work until it scores a 10 out of 10 on that rubric, and show me only the final perfect output. And then I add it, especially when it comes to YouTube quality description titles. In this particular case, I don't need that because that's not what we're working on right now. So I'll just take that off. So here's the rubric. Let me zoom it in over here, give you a second to copy and paste that. And again, I'll link Jeff's video in the description so that you can go watch the whole thing yourself. But this was just one tip I picked out of that video. And I was like, man, that is freaking glorious, glorious, glorious. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and run this real quick. I need to add those questions. And let me take this last part out because it's out of context and just leave it at authentic. There we go. So let's go ahead and let me add one more thing. And resonating with my core audience. So these are the regular check-in questions to keep everything authentic and resonating with my core audience. And I just pasted those questions we talked about. So let me go ahead and run this. And it's thinking away. And you know what? Because my bot knows me so well, it gave me even better questions. You know what I'm saying? So this is phenomenal. This is phenomenal. So if you say, so notice down in the bottom, it says, if you say, let's do a check-in, I'll run this flow example and keep it tight. Okay, so now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn this into a project so that way I can invoke it and keep everything sort of together. Just makes a little bit more sense. So can you turn this into a set of project instructions? And again, when it goes to pick from the question, it doesn't have to do all 39 questions. Just grab a handful. Let's just say 5-ish, each check in, and then we'll make it work from there. So if you can craft a prompt that I can put into a project to make this work, and if there's anything else I need for the project, like a title for the project or description for the project, let's go ahead and generate that now. Okay. Now, I don't know if you need to duplicate the rubric question every time. I've just turned it into a habit, and stunting is a habit. So when you're in the same conversation, it might be stupid, but I just do it anyway. You know what I mean? So give it a check-in, give it a second. Okay. So now it has everything that it needs. There's a project title, the description, and here is this prompt. Now this is very important, the next step. So let me show you what we're going to do. I'm having it pull this out. Once this finishes, I'm going to put it in a code block. But notice this. If I say, let's do a check-in, respond with a quick greeting, and then 5 to 7 questions numbered, and wait for my answer. I've told it so many times to wait for my answer so it doesn't cut me off. I didn't even have to instruct it that. It just actually knew that. That is a good tip, by the way. If you're talking with the voice bot and it keeps cutting you off, tell it to wait for your answer. And it's a very simple thing. Okay, so we're going to take all of these, and I'm going to go ahead and copy this, and then we're going to go to the side, and we're going to say a new project. And then we're going to name this project. Oh, heck, hold on one second. I forgot what I named it. I named it check-in. I'm going to just steal this. I'm going to grab these two. I have a clipboard history thing. so I can figure it out easier. So let me go ahead and say new project. And then on here, I'm going to paste in the title of the project. Project name is too long. Let's just do the check-in. I can take off my name. I know whose it is. All right, we go ahead and create this project. Then what we want to do is come into the very top corner up here, click on this guy and say add instructions. And under add instructions, we're going to paste in that big old prompt. Bingo. And then just say save. And now all I have to do to run this prompt is say, let's start a new check-in. Now, because I don't want to type, I could just hit the voice box and run it from there. But I don't know if I have the video set up right to run it that way, so I'm just going to go ahead and paste it in here. Let's do a quick check-in. I'm not going to go through the whole thing either because it takes a little bit. If you're doing it good, you're spending your time, you're thinking, you're talking through it, this might take you a couple of minutes, but it will build you out. I'm going to give you a couple of quick examples. What do you want your audience to do more of this week after watching your content? Oh, that's a good one. Hey, that's a good one. Click in this little spot right here. This week, I really want my audience to understand that taking action is the most important thing. Everything works from momentum, figuring out your needs, discovering your audience, getting better with your brand, getting better at talking, getting better at titles, thumbnails, everything. It all comes from actual repetition. You cannot study your way to success in this particular field. This field requires actual physical motion action. Just create it, publish it, create it, publish it. And then, and only then, can they win at this content creation game. Okay, boom. This is good. This is good. Okay, what are they struggling with right now most? Mindset, tech, confidence, consistency, or clarity? I think most people are struggling with the mindset because many of us were just raised where things needed to be perfect and nobody wanted to hear from you unless it was flawless. A lot of that have to do with our early education system where everything was based on grades and sort of competition. And I think the last part would definitely be a combination of confidence and clarity. But confidence only comes from the proof of knowing that you can do it. And the only way you can know you can do it is to try to do it and then see how far you get. So in other words, if you're going to throw a baseball and your goal is to throw a baseball 90 feet, and the first time you throw it 30, you know you're 30% of the way there. So you got to go out and try it more until you can get to 50, eventually 70, then to get to 90. But you have no idea how good you are until you throw the first one. So I think that's important for us to, hammer home. That's basically it in a nutshell. I'm not going to finish this interview right now because I got to pack. I got to go to Japan. But I wanted to show you real quick, how you could build better context for you and your bot so that you can start to have better outcomes. It is a little frustrating when I hear people say that, this AI thing sucks. I also a little frustrating that everybody's using it to just create for them instead of having it help them create better. And even if this didn't exist, this is the same thing that you would do with an accountability partner. This is the same thing that you would do with a coach. This is the same thing you would do with, somebody who's in a group, a mastermind group, right? They would ask you questions that cause you to think and go deeper inside yourself and push the envelope a little harder. And if you're creating by yourself, your family hasn't fully bought in, you don't necessarily have an accountability partner yet, or you didn't even know what you don't know to know what you know in order to need to know what you need to know, make that work for you. This is a good way to find out. This is a good way to frequently ask and find out. FAFO. You know what I say, family. I don't know who needs to hear this, but if it was you, let me know in the comments section below. If you like this video, press the like button, press the subscribe button, and ring that notification bell. And right about now, the algorithm's going to show you another video they think you should watch, and I agree with them.
I need to know everything, who and the what and the where, I need everything. Trust me, I hear what you're saying, but act like it's new what you're telling me. I'm curious, George, I hop in the Porsche, it's 5 and a horse, I'm ready for war, I'm coming for throats, to turn to a ghost, I need to know everything. Now you be surprised at the info you get is by letting them talk, so I'm letting them talk.